In this episode, we do some diving on the island of Roatan, and we take a shortcut, because that always turns out well. My wife and I are on a motorcycle trip through Mexico, Central, and South America, exploring culture and food. So please bring an appetite for adventure, because we're hungry riders. So we did the border crossing into Honduras from Guatemala, and this was one of the more chill borders that I researched.
Yeah, there was like hardly anybody there, which you would think would be a good thing because there was no lines to wait in, but you did have to wait for the employees to get around to...
Come back from lunch or come back from break.
Just get around to doing what they're supposed to do.
I've heard that the Honduras is one of the worst border crossings in Central America.
It's fine.
It's totally fine, and this one was especially good.
Yeah. And then we headed up the Caribbean coast, which we haven't seen since Belize. Very pretty.
Yep, we're just cruising along, and you know, it was a couple days of riding actually. And you know, we're going along, and we went through a city, and then we had the most convenient problem on the trip so far.
What happened?
I got a flat tire.
Again?
It's actually the third one. But this one happened right in front of a tire shop, or at least this is when I noticed it. So that's good.
So that was only $2.50 to repair that flat tire.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
And it would be a good deal if the same thing didn't happen 30 kilometers down the road.
Yeah, another flat tire, the same flat tire. The patch didn't hold.
Yeah, it basically tore the tube open entirely. We had to throw it away, put our spare in. We did it ourselves because this particular tire repair place that we stopped at didn't have anyone working there at the time.
But
so
the family was there, and so she let us use the tools and everything. And
that was nice. We have our own, but theirs are better.
so then we were going to head off to Roatan, take the ferry there, but first we stopped at some fruit stands on the side of the road to try out some local fruits that we weren't familiar with before. We don't know what this one is,
It's a chupete.
which is why we got it.
Yeah.
This is a rambutan.
And apparently it's very typical for Central America.
This one is a rambutan, which you are familiar with because you lived in Hawaii.
Yes, but we've seen these for the last couple countries actually
Yeah,
too. They're pretty
throughout
popular.
Mexico even.
Yeah.
I have never had one before. This is a mangosteen, which I also have never had before.
I've also had that in Hawaii. Try the rambutan first. I'll try one with you.
I don't know how to do it.
You break it open
Show me.
with your nails basically, and then just peel it off.
Kind of has the texture of a grape.
Yeah. Well, I think it tastes like a grape too. I don't know why they're fuzzy, but they are. It's a very weird looking fruit. Let's try a mangosteen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you only eat the white part. These are one of the weirdest fruits I've ever eaten. It's like a really woody pulp on the outside.
Yeah, it's very woody.
And then they have like a soft thing that looks like an orange basically.
Okay. Number 3.
Chupete.
Chupete.
Yeah. And apparently you just cut them open.
So there's 2 seeds in the middle.
Oh, 1, 2.
It's like halfway between the 2 of these.
Yeah, they just bred them together.
They did.
That's what you get.
It's got like a mushy white fruit.
It smells weird.
Ooh,
It smells kind of orangey.
it does. Yeah, like orange. But it's white, like the mangosteen.
It's like a.
It's almost bitter, like the peel of the orange.
It tastes like a cross between an orange and a lemon.
But the texture is completely different.
Yeah. Actually, what I think it tastes closest to is juicy fruit.
No.
It's juicy fruit, but it's an actual fruit.
I don't agree with that at all.
It's got a more fruity, intense taste, but
It's
I think
more orangey than juicy fruit is. It has that orangey, citrusy.
yeah, but that's just because it's fresh and juicy. It's juicy fruit flavored. I found the fruit. Now we know what juicy fruit is. So then we took our bikes to Roatan on a ferry.
The ferry's not really built to take motorcycles, but in doing some research we figured out that it was possible, but it wasn't until we got there that we figured out exactly how to do it.
And it's basically like you're shipping it like you would send a box to Roatan.
Just any other cargo.
Yeah, basically. And it worked out, and the bikes got a little bit salty on the way there.
A little bit sprayed, yeah.
But it was fun, and you know, we had our bikes with us on the islands, which means we had all of our stuff.
And transportation around the island. So we did a lot of diving on Roatan. partly because the hotel that we stayed at was connected with a dive shop, so they gave discounts back and forth. and both of those are right on the beach.
Yeah. You roll out of bed around 9 o'clock, throw your swimsuit on if you weren't sleeping in it, and then you go diving. Like
walk 5 minutes to the boat,
and then you're 5 minutes out on the boat and you're diving. That's pretty awesome.
10 minutes after you wake up.
Yeah. That's Serafina expects that for all of her diving experiences so far.
And it was really cheap too. I mean, really good deal too.
Yeah, it was like $25 for a dive, which is a very good deal all over the world.
And Aaron's dad met us in Roatan too, so the three of us rented a little cabin, 2-bedroom cabin, so that we could all stay
We did
there
a lot of
together.
cooking ourselves there, caught up on some homemade food kind of things.
Partly because all the food there was international food. It's a very touristy spot for good reasons. It's awesome.
Yeah. I asked like the local guy who just like lived there his whole life. He runs the dive shop in the hotel type of thing. Like, where's the Honduran food?
There isn't any.
There isn't any. I mean, people grow up eating like fruit and seafood and beans and rice and that kind of stuff. But like,
they don't
I
have
think as far as like a
restaurants.
local Honduran type cuisine,
So we had noodles. We had hamburgers. Sometimes we did eat out, but like you said,
Argentinian steaks.
that was really good.
Those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not really the food culture I guess I was expecting.
Yeah.
I guess
So, but then we ended up diving twice a day
for about a week.
for a week straight, which was awesome. It was really fun. And then we headed back to the mainland.
And we wanted to make our way over to the Nicaraguan border, and we stopped a couple times. But on one of the roads that we took, it was a secondary road,
That's what our map called it.
and we weren't sure what that meant. But when we're riding on it, it's totally fine.
It's a dirt road.
It's a dirt road, but it's in great shape. It's very well graded. You can still do 45, 55 miles an hour, no problem. And so we stopped for lunch. It's on a late lunch that one day, and I had it was a chuleta, which is like basically a pork chop, but it was basically a giant smoky piece of bacon that you could like pick up with your hands and just eat off a bone.
Sounds pretty good.
It was really delicious.
It was.
But
And then we wanted to continue to the Nicaraguan border, and we wanted to avoid the capital because there's no point in riding through the giant big city on motorcycles.
so there's another road, which is an improved road, which is a notch down from what we just rode.
On our map, that's what our map called it, an improved road. So how bad could that be?
Yeah, so we're going along, and the road keeps getting rougher and rougher, and then there's a decent-sized water crossing. We've done them before. I almost fell.
It's a pretty good river.
Yeah, I almost fell. I mean, I didn't almost fall, but it was difficult for me to get
Sketchy.
through. Serafina had a little more difficulty where she dropped her bike in the middle of the river, it was fine. The bike fell over. We picked it up right away, and in the process of picking it up,
it was in the process of falling.
No, it was when we were picking it up.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I don't know if you watched one of our previous motorbike, actually the very first one,
The very first
but
motorbike.
the same thing happened in that one. I watched it in slow motion as Serafina yanked on her handlebars and ripped off her red kill switch on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And that did exactly the same thing.
So with the kill switch off,
Yes.
the bike doesn't start.
So you have one option with what we have. That is to jump start the bike.
Push start
or not start it at all.
Right.
Is the other option.
Right.
And it was a really bad spot, and it was like in a little valley thing, so we had to push the bike uphill. Some guys came by on a bicycle, helped us
push
do
up
that.
the
That was
hill.
good.
It's a
And
dirt road.
And so it was in the water, so there could be water in the engine, it could be in the spark plug, like all kinds of things could have gone wrong. And so you don't know if the push starting it's going to work anyway.
But it did.
Yeah.
First try worked fine.
And it's in the
Push
dirt too, where you have a lot less traction.
Yeah.
It was great.
It worked fine.
Yeah.
And we kept going.
Yep. We switched bikes, so I was riding her bike.
Yeah.
She was riding mine. Unfamiliar with my bike, I guess,
Yeah.
even though they're exactly the same thing. And we made it another, I don't know, kilometer or two up the hill. A little sketchy.
The road was getting worse, and it was dark at that point.
Yeah, and so Serafina crashed and went down, and so I can't stop the bike. She couldn't pick it up herself.
I was trying to pick up the bike.
And when she said I stopped it, I stalled the bike because I was going uphill, and it just died. So I needed to kickstart it again, or jump start it again. Push start.
Push start.
Push start. That's the correct word for it. And
So
I was doing that, and again the road is much worse here. It's completely dark. I was able to turn the bike around. I was going downhill, and then the traction was horrible here, and it just
Right.
wouldn't start.
And you kind of need that to be able to push start
The
it.
rear was fishtailing, and then I had a decent sized crash as the rear locked up.
Which it's supposed to do when you jump start it.
And the bike fell on my foot, and my foot really hurts now.
That's why we're propped up this way.
Yeah.
We saw a house
With a light
nearby
on.
with a light. So we kind of shone our lights over there, tried to see if there's anybody over there, see if we could walk over there. It didn't look like we could walk over there because there was a giant valley.
Yeah, it's not giant, but
It was a
anyway,
decent size.
some rescuers, like super nice family. They're coffee growers here in Honduras. We'll take a better look around tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But they were super helpful. Helped us get off all the things from the bikes. Helped us put it at his brother's house for a good place to park them. That was adventurous too, getting them down the hill in the dark without any power on the other one because we can't kickstart it here.
Right.
And then my foot.
Let alone with a hurt foot.
Painful.
Right.
So
we're staying at this lovely family's house.
Yeah, they have an extra room for us apparently, which is super cool. We have our camping gear. I was debating whether the camping gear would ever be useful. And I think it's going to prove itself tonight. So the next morning we woke up on the coffee farm where we were sleeping, which was kind of fun if it wasn't such a adventurous situation.
And so then it was time to get the bikes running. My bike was missing its kill switch, as we mentioned before.
And there's 5 contacts on that behind the switch. You don't actually need the switch, but you basically need to connect whatever combination of those 5 contacts in order to get the bike working.
Yeah.
And we eventually figured it out by basically figuring out which ones to connect. And
we blew 2 fuses in the process, but we had 5 extra, so it wasn't a big deal.
It worked out. And in the process of that, we also noticed that Serafina's muffler was missing.
Completely missing. And you had heard a noise.
Yeah, I thought that the night before I heard like, oh man, your bike sounds really weird now. It's like extra loud.
I wonder, maybe your muffler's loose.
But there was so much stuff that happened immediately after that that we kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, so that next morning I went back down the hill and we could not find the muffler. Somebody had taken it. Very valuable, I'm sure.
To someone with a KLR 650 in the mountains of Honduras. But it's okay. You know, we can probably get a muffler down the road, right?
The bike still runs about it.
Yeah. So we did that, and they kept mentioning the people were staying with a Gringo mechanic that's like the next mountain over.
It's like 10 minutes away.
And so we sent a car ahead.
They offered to go to fetch this mechanic and bring him back and see if he could help us out.
Yeah.
And right as he arrived, we had just figured out how to fix it.
And everything was working fine.
Right.
So he escorted us back to their family house, basically. And what this is it's a Mennonite community. And we've ran into Mennonites in Belize earlier. Here's another one. And
very friendly.
You know, super nice people, super friendly.
They gave us lunch, which was very, very appreciative.
And we hadn't eaten since that pork chop the day before. And you know, we basically hung out in their house like the rest of the part of the afternoon until they gave us an escort back to civilization, basically.
There are so many forks in the road, so many different ways to get out.
Not on the GPS, not on any maps.
No signs.
And the people there, they know like the next mountain over, the next hill. They don't know like the general direction to get out. Or they can't. We weren't able to get those kind of directions.
But they'll pretend to be helpful, so they'll tell you that is the right way, even if they don't really know. They think so, maybe. So we got an escort to alleviate that problem. So we got out, finally hit pavement, which I've never been so happy to see pavement in my life, I swear.
And cruising along, and we made it to Danlí. So the next morning in Danlí, we needed to get some repairs done to our bikes. I needed some welding done to my luggage rack because it fell over a little bit and it was a pretty rough road.
And I needed, obviously, to get my kill switch repaired. We didn't need the kill switch itself, so we just soldered a wire back in the assembly so that it doesn't need a kill switch at all.
There's no kill switch on the bike now, basically.
Which is fine, I don't need it. I've never used it anyway.
We usually use the keys anyway.
To turn it off, yeah. And once we got done with that, we had some lunch and there was an interesting fruit vendor nearby.
We saw some taxi guys like all munching away on some really weird fruit that we'd never seen before. And I thought I wanted some. So we're standing out here in front of a bus stop / taxi stand / strip mall and chicken place. And we're in Honduras. And you know, I really like to experience the fruit that we come across. And we found some that they were selling off a bicycle. And I don't know, they're kind of weird. There's no U.S. fruit I would compare them to. They're called ciguela, and so it's just the fruit. We usually avoid eating the skin of things, but since everyone else is doing it here, we'll assume that it's okay. But they put on the salt, some look like some kind of soy sauce, or I guess another kind of salt, and some kind of chili sauce, which makes them kind of spicy. But that's what they look like. And then there's a big pit, but it's kind of sweet. They're kind of a little bit chalky, a little bit waxy on the skin, kind of like an apple skin. But I don't know, something really different.
So that's it for this episode. On the next episode, we head into Nicaragua, where we stay at a clown school for kids, and I learn how to surf.
And until then, please retweet our episodes if you like them on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already.
And of course, our website, as always, is hungryriders.com. See you next time.
I'm hungry.